Hey everybody, what's up? David Morin here at the Bodybuilding.com headquarters with my friend Rachel Pyron, and we're gonna put you through a resistance band training for shoulders today that may challenge you in a way I think that you've never experienced. After using weight training for many, many years, over 20 years for myself, I've experienced weaknesses in joints, areas of opportunity where I can use a different mode of adaptation to create strength in those joints. So today we're gonna run you through an exceptional program to stimulate muscle, to strengthen the joints, and to get blood flow in the shoulders. We're gonna start off with a warm-up, because obviously getting blood flow to the muscle tissue is essential. It starts you off with what I like to call a modified lateral raise. So we're just gonna grab the band here, put our hands together, tuck our elbows in, okay? You guys at home, if you're familiar with a machine lateral raise, where you kind of sit your elbows in the pads, it's similar to that range of motion, where you're just gonna flare out your elbows as far as you can, not too high. You don't wanna engage the traps too much. You wanna inhale and exhale, get that nice squeeze. If you want to increase the resistance, just take a wider stance. So as you take that wider stance, you're going to pull on the band more and create more resistance. Start here, get that isometric hold, get that squeeze. So for these, I like to do 20, 30 reps, depending on what your strength threshold is.
For myself, I've primarily used bands more just as a warm-up before like deadlifting or squatting. I think that's kind of traditionally how they're used like in the strongman world, especially traveling for a contest where you don't have a lot of equipment to warm up with.
Yes.
But I've certainly never used them as like an entire workout. So I'm more curious than anything as to like how I can just add something new to my training.
We'll run through a successive series of movements that'll challenge the shoulders in different, using different secondary muscles. So what's gonna happen is you're really gonna get that metabolic stimulation in the muscle tissue and a lot of blood flow, which is just gonna be great for the shoulder health in general. So what we'll start with is we'll do a nice overhead press to start after that warm up. So we're just gonna engage like a bicep curl. I'm gonna rotate the shoulder out. We're gonna keep our core tight and press. Now I'm gonna modify the resistance a little bit because I'm in the mood for a challenge. So same position, rotate and press. And when I was introduced to these, you can get that nice Arnold activation as well with the front delt. The differentiation between this range of motion with band resistance for you guys at home and just your typical standard overhead dumbbell press or your barbell presses is that it's unilateral and it challenges the core stability on the opposing side. And also the way that your body has to naturally move and engage to get full range of motion, it's gonna stimulate the shoulder throughout a greater range of motion.
How many are we doing?
I recommend at least 20. We're looking for a metabolic load, not really a resistance load.
Yeah, before we switch to the right hand, can you show me how I would maybe shorten the band? Being 4'11", it's a little bit harder for me to use like a long band like this. So.
Yes, you're just gonna wrap it around the opposing foot, and then what you'll do is you'll just step on the band. Now, obviously, the wider that you go, the more resistance that you'll create.
Okay.
The narrower you go, the less resistance.
What's the best way that you would recommend to choose the band size? Like there's 5 or 6 sizes of bands, so how do you know what's the most appropriate band for the exercise that you're doing?
That's a great question. Obviously, if you're new to using bands, I would advise the individual just to assess it from bottom up. You can start with a smaller band, engage the muscle, see how many reps you can do. If you're gonna stand there with a small band and do 50 reps, then obviously that's not gonna be a challenge. The goal here, obviously, is to challenge the muscle because we're not using traditional weight resistance.
And it's certainly an easy thing to adjust, like if it starts out too easy.
If you're comfortable grabbing and pulling, you've got a strong grip, or if you
Sure.
need to hook yourself into it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I've had some tendonitis in my left arm quite a bit, so it makes sense to adjust based on like your grip strength and other injuries that you might have.
So I'm gonna demonstrate some of the different variations that you can create greater resistance. So I can go a little wider with my stance, and that's gonna dynamically increase the resistance here. Now, towards the end of my set, if I wanna drop set and scale back, I bring my feet together. And other side. So right, insert that elbow, rotate, press. Breathe in, press. Tight core, rotate, press. We are banded together. Woo. I'm feeling it, I don't know about you. So the next exercise is gonna be our upright rows.
Yeah, I'm gonna switch bands, I think, this
Okay.
time.
And like I said, with a smaller band, if you get a wider stance, you'll get more resistance. Narrower stance, less resistance. Now, let's just do a few reps. You don't want to go too high. Get that medial delt activation, right?
Yeah, I don't ever do these with barbells or anything because it hurts. This
Yeah.
is nice.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
a lot less.
Yeah, you're getting
like,
that
stress.
rotation. Exactly. And one of the main things, the main cues at home for you guys that you want to pay attention to, because you want to connect to the muscle that you're isolating. So this exercise is about the medial delts. It's not about the traps. The higher you pull, the more traps are going to get involved. You want to keep your knees bent, nice and soft, so you take the pressure off your lower back. And if you need help connecting to the muscle that you're trying to isolate, I recommend just kind of closing your eyes and connecting to that muscle. What we're looking for here is 15 to 20 reps.
So do you always kind of adjust your rep range to making sure you hit exhaustion with each set, or do you not really burn out per se until your last set?
That's a very good question, because some days, I don't know what it is with the variables, some days you have more reps in you than others. And the deal is with bands, you can safely, go past thresholds without injuring yourself and impairing the joints. So I recommend if you have more in you for your reps, you can do one of two things. You can increase the resistance by widening the stance, or you can just do extra reps.
So I could switch to just 1 foot too if I wanted to even do more reps, but
Exactly.
okay.
Yep, that narrows the stance even more.
So it's nice to have like an alternative.
Exactly.
And shoulders get kind of boring, like if you're just doing raises, so it's nice to change it up.
Exactly. I see you got a pump there.
Sure. I'm trying.
Right there, see that? So now we're gonna do something unique. This is something that I think you can only experience with bands. And this is one of the reasons why I love working with these bands. So I love front raises. With dumbbells, they kind of swing around. But what I also like is to be able to do a front raise and stimulate the posterior delts, right? You're engaging medial
Nice.
delts by holding it. Back in, bring it in, out, and down. Up, back, in, pull in, that's it, and down. So make sure that knees are bent. If you need more resistance, like we said, wider stance, up, out, perfect. How you feeling, Rachel?
Good. I like this.
Good, yeah, soft knees, no pressure on the back.
It's hard.
It's very challenging, and I'm gonna have to scale it back, which is no problem. There's no ego here. You just want growth, right? Progress. So, back to the grind. Up, out, in, good. Out, squeeze, hold, and down. We want 10 reps.
I feel like we've done 50.
I think we have.
I think I did that one wrong.
One more. I cheated. Oh. As you can see, we're not pulling any punches here. It's a challenge. If you focus on working smarter and not trying to cheat your way through getting results, you'll find that the bands are very effective. No shoulder exercise will be complete without the lateral raise. So we're gonna do some burnouts here. I like to do it from the floor position because you gotta keep that core stable. So we'll start with a deep breath, core nice and tight. There's one. And just over parallel, right to your ear.
I like how there's tension the whole time.
Yes,
Good.
and especially at the top.
It's
When you're
very
using
controlled.
cables and stuff, you're gonna get that, release as you're coming down.
Yeah.
A lot of people like to just swing.
A lot of times if I try to use like a cable machine, the cable weights, like even if you're using the lightest one,
Yes.
are still too heavy to really do like a burnout set with a shoulder raise without like really cheating the weight.
Yes.
So I think the bands are a lot more appropriate for when you're wanting to use lighter weight.
So it's every bit as effective as, I see it, I see it, you're swelling up. You must be allergic to bands.
Yeah.
You use it and you start swelling up. So I definitely feel it, and it's so much of a better feeling for me that when I use bands and I get that top resistance and the range of motion, then I go back to using lateral raises with dumbbells. It's a whole nother world.
Mm-hmm. So I think with the bands too, you can do a lot of the lighter weight, but also I'm sure you go into stretching and stuff as well
Yes.
in other workouts.
Exactly. Well put. Rachel, that was a blast.
Awesome. Thank you.
And I'm sure that movement's gonna help you, it helped me, and it can help you at home. See you next time.